Hi guys, welcome to another episode of the world famous podcast, Beating Press. Two hosts, myself, Ty, and we've obviously got the excellent Kristian with us as well today. And I can see he's wearing some fancy headphones, new blue headphones today. Normally it's just standard white. Yeah, been out splashing.
The cerulean.
It's a bit fancy for that. Thanks for joining us, guys. For the new people that haven't listened to us before, we talk about football. If that's your kind of thing, please do that magical thing and hit that subscribe button and share it if you think we're any good. Give us a like. But generally what we talk about is anything and everything to do with football, all kind of different subjects. There's no topic that's off limits for us, and today's podcast is probably a good example of that. So obviously in the news recently, you would not have and could not have missed it, was Newcastle's takeover by PIF. So they're basically a consortium group backed by the Saudi government. And then brilliant for Newcastle fans because they've had shit for the last 14 years from Mike Ashley, who's now fucked off, and they can hopefully get their club back. We've had, as Liverpool fans, we had that through Hicks and Gillette, so we can get that. We get that. Now, the owners is one topic that we're going to talk about. The other one, which is a bit that I think hasn't been as covered as much as it probably should have done, is the human rights issues that are going on in Saudi Arabia that people have sort of skirted around without actually going full throttle. So hopefully, we're going to delve into that and just share our views on it. So that's what today's podcast is going to be on. And with that being said, I'll just pass over to Chris to kick us off.
Yeah, obviously being from Middlesbrough, a few people might be wondering, the thoughts of a fellow Northeasterner, and a lot of my borough mates are like, how do you feel about it? And I'm like, well, I'm not an actual borough fan. My borough mates hate it. They want Newcastle to fail, burn to the ground, all that, and they're going into the human rights spiel and that. And obviously we're going to go into that in a bit. But I'm happy as a football fan for Newcastle, just because it's what the working class people want, and that's essentially what Newcastle are. They're a working class club that went through a lot of crap with Mike Ashley, and he's just dragged them through the mud. And again, I've got friends who are Geordies who were telling me that they hope he goes and buys Sunderland now, just to kind of recompense and make it up to the Geordies to be the ultimate turnaround. But I'm really happy for them. I'm always happy for the Northeastern clubs, especially because it revitalises the area, the region as a whole. You've seen what obviously Manchester City have done for their area, and the infrastructure that they've built around there. And I'm always happy for the local clubs. In particular as well, Mask United, just a quick mention, Mask United, they're actually in FA Cup action tonight. So good luck. They're going to face Altrincham.
Yeah.
I think
if they've got Gateshead, haven't they? They're playing Gateshead.
Yeah, it's a big Gateshead. I think they're in the conference premier or something like that. So good luck to them. But yeah, all Northeast clubs I'm over the moon with when they get a takeover. I was even happy when Everton got took over, because you just it can be hard as a Liverpool fan where you think you're getting hard done by and what have you, and we've done it the right way. But in reality, if your club's good enough, competition, we went neck and neck with Man City for so long. It just gives you that extra bit of a test. And again, I'm happy for them. What about yourself?
Yeah, no, I'm happy for the fans. I've got quite a few Newcastle mates. Obviously, I'm from there. We had a few lads that played for the club that I managed as well. Season ticket holders. Just a few of the lads that used to hang around with up in Borough, Newcastle fans, and a few Geordies that I met there. But I'm happy for them because I know how much they've been through having Mike Ashley as the manager, as the chairman, how stubborn he was. I mean, I think people see Steve Bruce now think, yeah, but I think you've got to rewind back and understand the history of what Ashley's done. People seem to forget about Dennis Wise being there as a technical director. I think Joe Kinnear coming in as a manager. Do you know what I mean? That guy called Jimenez coming in, it was just an absolute mess. Him there standing in the stands, drinking a pint, thinking you can mingle with fans. Like, what owner? What are you doing? Do you know what I mean?
No.
And then everything he did was just like so bad. I think that there's been a slight over-exaggeration in terms of what they've spent I think he has had money to spend, Steve Bruce, but I just think they've just bought absolutely shit. You know what I mean? Like, you've bought Joe Linton for what, best part of 40 million. You know, there's some bad signings in that club. I think the bit that we can both relate to is when we had Hicks and Gillette, we only had them for a couple of years. You know, well, I said we had them for a long time, but it started getting bad towards the end of their tenure. Now it's the same thing, but that sort of bad 6 months that we had, just make that bigger and think 14 years, and then you get a sort of understanding of what it feels like to be a Newcastle fan. And then the joy of getting that. I remember when we got these two, you know, the new guys, FSG, coming in, and we were like, we didn't really care who they were. We just wanted them out. I think that's what, you know, so you're not going to do your research, and then you'll make an argument to say, yeah, FSG are brilliant, even though we know nothing about them. You know, yeah, brilliant. They've got, I mean, you know, they had Boston, didn't they? Boston Red Sox, I think it was. And they've come over with them. And then the way they've managed the club, and I remember then when they first came in, said, we're not going to spend billions. We've got stuff to sort out. We're going to sort the stadium out. We're going to do this, but we're going to spend within limits. And we're not going to take money out of the club. And it's exactly what they've done. So Liverpool have ran their club. You talk about net spend, and it's like lowest, and, you know, from all the big clubs by a mile. But they've run it the right way. And that only happens because of two things for me. I think it's Michael Edwards, the recruitment guy, and obviously Jurgen Klopp as well. We have been unbelievably lucky to have them two at the same time for it to work, and it's been brilliant, and it's worked a treat. So I just think I completely get where Newcastle fans are coming from. The issue, I think Newcastle fans short term, we'll talk about the human rights issue in a bit, the short term is they're a shit team. Like, that is where they are at the moment. They're like 4 points off safety. But, you know, you're talking about spending money. You can't spend money till January, so you've got like 12 or 13 games. You could be dead and buried before you even get there. Now, the issue about Steve Bruce is, do you keep him on or do you bring someone else in? Whoever comes in has got the same players to manage.
Well, now, I'll ask you that. Would you keep him on?
No, because it's toxic. Once it gets toxic, he's got to go. The fans were singing Bruce out. He's getting sacked in the morning. They're their own fans in the Tottenham game. Once that happens, his position becomes untenable. He's just got to go. The owners could hear that and see that as well. They could see the negativity within that stadium. Now, you could bring either one of us two as the manager. It won't make a difference. We will not get booed or anything until January because they know the players we've got. And it has a knock-on effect on the players as well. When you can hear your manager getting nailed, because they're thinking, well, it doesn't really make a difference how I perform because you're going to be gone in a couple of weeks.
He's not going to be.
Yeah, you're not going to be here. I think the whole thing about, you know, you might as well stick with him because you've got no. I think it's too toxic. It doesn't help anyone. You could get any other manager and he's not going to do worse. And Bruce has been shit for a while, by the way. I think they haven't won a game for a long time. You know, their points total for the last 20 odd games is horrendous. You know, they've got 3 points. I'm not having the fact that they are the third worst. They are one of the three worst teams in the league. Absolutely not. I think they're good. They've got some good players, but I do think the recruitment's been horrendous. I mean, in what planet, in what world is Matt Ritchie a left back for a Premier League club? You know, you buy him as a right winger, he ends up playing left back for you. I'm like, what? You know, I mean, Kieran Clark isn't as Premier League centre half. You know, the midfield's like, all right. You know, Alan Saint-Maximin and Callum Wilson are obviously, I mean, I'm stating the obviously the two best players they've got. I just think there's a lot of stuff to be done there. I'll ask you the question. What do you think? Keep him or
He's absolutely got to go. Like, I only see them going one direction if he stays. And like you said, it's already toxic as it is. Imagine this in April, May, when they're probably already relegated. I just can't see them staying up with him in charge. Like you said, it's a toxic environment. And once that starts happening, the players stop playing altogether. What I would do is I would put in a temporary. Well, they can't even do a temporary manager, can they? Because I've been looking into Man City, and Man City had Sven-Göran Eriksson just before the owners go over back in 2008, and they appointed Mark Hughes, and I don't know whether he was some kind of caretaker manager, second in command to Sven-Göran Eriksson, but they actually kept him for 2 years. Now, that could be something where they look into maybe like an Eddie Howe, which is going to tide them over for the next couple of years, or at least this season to get them out of trouble. But I'm not sure that they will see Eddie Howe as a long-term replacement. I've just got the betting odds up here, and I've got like, this is just typical across the board. Eddie Howe is running in favourite at the moment. Lucien Favre, I think. Yeah, Fonseca, Lampard, Gerrard, Emery, and then Martinez. There's not like the typical names that you would associate like a Zidane or anything like that. There's no big names out there. Just wondering who you think could do the job, would do the job at this point.
I think it's an interesting one because when you get a major, I mean, let's not beat about the bush. In 3 or 4 years' time, they're going to be challenging for the title in Champions League. That's just what's going to happen. Okay, this season, whether they go down in Championship, they'll be back the year after. Whoever, the first manager that they get is not going to be the manager they're going to have in 3 years' time. So the first manager they're going to have will be the one for a year, 2 years, maybe one to just sort of get them to that stage where they can get the big dog in to come and drive. Really, they probably need like an Eddie Howe type of manager to come in and get players. Get them to become a good Premier League club, a top 10 Premier League club, without no matter who it is, and then you can come in and start, a top 10 Premier League club with a smattering of sort of some real world class talent in there, 2 or 3, and then you get your Zidanes, Contes in. Having said that, Antonio Conte is out of a job. He may well go now. Zidane and the 2 jobs that you'd imagine are going to be up for grabs in the Premier League, where big managers will go, will be Man United and Newcastle. You'd think. And they're the 2 that are available.
Yeah, I think we've got to kind of get it remotely right for the immediate future, because obviously it looks like they're going to go and spend in January. Like it looks like they're immediately going to go out and improve, because I don't think that, it is a year in the Championship, but I don't think they can afford to go a year in the Championship. I don't think the owners will no way, shape or form.
Yeah, I think cost you've just got to throw out the window, because they can afford anything now. They literally can afford anything. I mean, they're the richest club in the world by a distance. You know what I mean? Can you imagine what Barcelona or Real Madrid would do if they had them? So I think they're just absolutely the issue, and I think it's whoever you get, Eddie Howe. I think the next managerial appointment, and I'm surprised they haven't made that decision already. I thought part of me was thinking they didn't sack him before Saturday because they wanted him to get his 1,000th game. Now that he's got that, you can fuck off. I mean, I actually think if they just get rid of him and go, whoever's the second in charge, is it Graham Jones? I'm not sure. You're the temporary assistant, you're the temporary manager for X amount of games. Or I just think they should get rid of the whole backroom stuff, promote the under 18s manager, whoever it is, get him to manage it. I think it's just got to a point. It doesn't really make a difference who the next manager is. Mark Hughes needs to be out of that club. He's getting so much joy and niceties from his mates in the media. Because that's what he is, he's one of those Sam Allardyce, Tony Pulis, the old good guard, that this sort of thing, and they live in a circle. And I do think the way he's been treated has been horrendous. Mark Hughes, there's no doubt about that. I mean, the fans singing, you get sacked in the morning, Bruce out. I mean, it's horrible to hear. You can, and then the whole week before is just about when's Bruce getting sacked. They're talking about replacement for your job when you're still in your job. You know what I mean? And I just think that the owners need to do something really firm by either saying, right, we're going to stick with you till whenever, or we're going to get rid of you, just to make it easy on him. It's his mental health as well. And I think it's, Can you imagine the stress and emotion that's going through for him to sort of think, right, okay, what do I do? Do I keep quiet? And then the other, I've always thought about this, as a Premier League manager, he knows full well, I'm probably going to get sacked, but I've got to stay. I can't resign, because if I resign, I don't get me £18 million player for whatever it is. So the part about that I think is really interesting as well. It's like, where do you put your sort of health before a big slump or something, which is what you're owed and what you deserve. Do you know what I mean?
He's got to wait it out. He's got to wait it out.
Know,
it's coming in the next few days or so. But yeah, it's sad that he's a Geordie. He grew up supporting Newcastle. His family from that area. And
I thought he did say something. I thought he said something which was really good. He said it's great for the, and when he was getting interviewed, he said it's just great for the area to have this investment in it. And I think that's the other bit Newcastle fans are just not are going to appreciate, because Man City, the Abu Dhabi lot came in and they've improved the city massively. We've got one of our best mates lives in Manchester, and he's told what they've done for the community. It'll be the same for Newcastle, because I've lived in Middlesbrough for 10 years. You live there for all your life. The Northeast is a part of the world that just doesn't get the money it deserves. Now that's from the national government, because with that, ultimately we're that far away from London that you're not going to get it. So to have one of the richest countries in the world to come in and go, bang, here we go, put billions into you, let's just revamp you, make you so much. You know what I mean? I think it's going to be great for the area as well.
Yeah, because they're essentially buying a city.
That's exactly that, and it's one club city as well. It's not like Man City or Man United. It's Newcastle. Do you know what I mean? I'm just gonna move the conversation on. I've got a question to ask you. Okay, so who do Newcastle target in the January transfer window? Because that's what's going to happen. Who do they buy? You know, you've
That
got
just
an
shows.
unlimited budget.
That just shows how unscripted this is. That was my next question.
Was
to
it all
you,
right?
to be honest. Yeah. So I like, obviously I don't think you can go out and immediately buy Mbappe, Haaland, or anything like that.
No.
It's not going to happen. You know, these guys are going to be thinking Champions League. You know, and you're not going to get anyone that's not in Champions League. You may get someone that's from like a Europa League club. But in reality, you're going to get someone that's verging on Europa League, perhaps not playing in there, that top end bit of quality. So for me, players like Declan Rice, I think he would be a target for them. You know what our thoughts on Declan Rice? I think he's a good player, not a great player, but you know, a lot of the media drive him up to be this type of player. He's the typical type of player, maybe even a Jesse Lingard. But again, how far is that player going to get you? Are they going to get you towards Europe? I'm just going to put one back to you here. A player that isn't in a major competition, but is highly sought after. He's an England international. He's probably the best out-and-out striker in the Premier League. Harry Kane. Do you think there's any chance that Newcastle could make a marquee signing of Harry Kane?
I think if Harry Kane's agent went to Newcastle and said he's available, they absolutely go for him, no doubt about it. But I think what happened in the summer with Kane, I don't think that's where he wants to be just yet. But I think give it a year, absolutely. You know, it always comes down to that first big signing. You know, doesn't matter who it is, just be one big signing. So then the other big players think, actually, do you know what? If he's gone, I'm going to go. Can you imagine what's going to look like? Yeah, exactly. You look at Robinho with the first one, he didn't realise he was signing for Man City. He thought he was signing for Man United, didn't it? But he still went. So it's the same thing, you know. You get your Robinho, you know, you get your big Kane. And if it is Harry Kane, I mean, I don't see it happening. But I've heard Rice and Lingard mentioned before, and I just think, what? I mean, they're not. I'm just thinking, why? What they're going to offer you? Because let's not mess around. Rice and Lingard. So say you get a year down the line and you get all the big hitters. They're not even starters, you know what I mean? And then you're looking at getting them. Yeah, I think it does come a point though, you know, you do buy these players and it's I'm almost thinking like how are they going to think, oh, we don't want to lose money, but then to them money actually doesn't matter whatsoever, you know what I mean? They're just about thinking, you know, if we buy Rice for 70 million, buy Lingard for 40 million, if we give them or get rid of them on loan or a free in a couple of years, does it make a difference to us? No, you know, it's pennies in it ultimately to them. I think.
And I just jump in with Manchester City's immediate sign. Do you remember who they signed immediately in that first season? They spent 141 million.
They signed. I'm trying to think with them. It was Mark Hughes was the manager, wasn't
he? He was, yeah.
And then I know the Robinho came. But did he come in that first window, or was he second?
He did, yeah. He was the first signing, yeah.
So they got Robinho. Was Gareth Barry already there?
Yeah, I believe Gareth Barry was already there, or he's going to come later because he's not on my list.
Signed Delano, didn't they? Remember they signed Delano? Or was that just before? You know, they had Delano. They had what was that striker?
I'm going to give you the list. So these are not the we're talking there about Rice, Lingard. That perhaps wouldn't go for them, but this is who Man City signed. They signed Joe, Nigel De Jong, Craig Bellamy, Wayne Bridge, Sean Wright-Phillips, Shay Given, Zabaleta, Company. And these obviously when Company and Zabaleta were not really heard of back then. Ben Haim and Daniel Sturridge is the only noticeable one. And he was 18 at the time. I think maybe he was coming through, I don't know, maybe coming through from the under-18s or something like that. But yeah, that's basically the rundown of the first players. So, you know, it's obviously going to evolve. You know, it might be a bit accelerated, but they weren't necessarily the greatest of the greatest.
You know, looking at that list you've given me, I think that's a brilliant first group of players to buy when you've taken over. Do you know? Yes. I'm looking through because I'm looking at Bridge, Bellamy, De Jong, Company, Zabaleta. Like, I mean, the first three are like good Premier League players anyway. Like, someone if you had them. They're equivalent now to going to Newcastle. They improve massively. Basically, the group of players you've just mentioned there, if Newcastle signed that equivalent now, back in the day, they stay up comfortably. And then you build on the back of that. I mean, Company and Zabaleta have been two of the best players in the Premier League ever. Do you know what I mean? And then they bend. So I think what you've got. I mean, obviously Joe was a bit. I mean, Joe was all right. I don't think they've signed anyone there that was horrendous. You know what I mean? Everyone did his job.
No.
And then they can do. But yeah, so I mean, the 141 million. You know, you only need 2 or 3 to come off there, and then you're away. Well, no, that's a good window. That, and I think Newcastle have just got to go, but they need to have them. I think Man City were in a slightly massively better and different position in that they had a manager who the fans didn't hate. And so you need that. That's the first issue needs solving. And it depends which manager you get. So if you get a Eddie Howe, and he'll obviously look Premier League managers. For example, if you get Antonio Conte, I mean, unlikely, but he'll be looking sort of, you know, maybe Italy, Spain, that sort of, you know, different parts of the world. Well, then it's like a bedding in period. I think the first manager almost needs to be a manager who understands the Premier League and understands the pool that he's searching from must be from the Premier League as well. Just because he can't be fucking about for a couple of months for having players, you know, bedding in. You've got to be going from the get-go, you know what I mean, and away you go.
Yeah. Do you know you mentioned about they could potentially be challenging for the title in 3 years' time. Bearing in mind, it's a lot different from when Man City took over. You know, times have changed, FIFA fair play, and I say that in inverted commas.
I know, yeah, I'm going to say.
FIFA fair play, the money with Sky, a lot more teams are able to compete with each other these days. What is a short-term and a long-term goal for them, a realistic? You believe that 3 years is enough to have them challenging?
Yes, because they stay up this season. Whoever the manager is now, he'll probably be manager for 18 months, and then the big manager comes in. Do you know what I mean? Unless they get really lucky and they get Conte. First short-term job is to stay up. And then I think every player in the world knows that Newcastle are going to be a Man City, PSG, but on a bigger scale. You know, so they've seen what projects happen there. It's not rocket science. Money's no object to them. They'll just go and buy the top players in the world. So every time a Haaland or someone like that looks like his contract's running out, they'll be all over it. Do you know what I mean? Because they'll be putting their name, you know, there saying, right, we're going to be on that. We want those players. I just think the 3 or 4 years, I think it is, because I think they're going to be, you know, because Klopp said something, and I thought he made a really point. He said they've got the money to get it wrong. In that, in the following 2 years, they could buy and spend whoever they want. They'll make a difference. They won't hit the Champions League. It might finish like 7th or 8th, but they'll get it right because they're going to keep spending the money. You know what I mean? It's not. It's going to end up like Man City, and it's going to end up like PSG, and you know. But I just think it's I think they will definitely be up there. And I'm going to say something now. Newcastle will win the Premier League before Man United.
You know, I'm not. You know, that's a big statement, but I'm not going to disagree with it. I'm not going to disagree with it because there are far too many clubs who are already above Manchester United. Manchester United playing catch up at the moment.
Yeah.
But that's for another day. But yeah, just onto obviously the human rights side of things. Like as fans. Do we have a responsibility to go against what our own is? You know, I'll put it like this way: a lot of the time, people will say that you shouldn't mix sport and politics. You know, people get chastised for bending the knee, for example. Now, this as a Liverpool fan, if you were taken over by the richest people in the world, do you care and should you care?
It comes down to your own moral compass, doesn't it? And I think the bit about, obviously we should care with human beings, you know, you don't want to see, but I think to pick Saudi Arabia and say what they're doing isn't right around X, Y, and Z, I think important things need to happen. We've got to look at our own behaviours of how we've behaved around countries that are close to Saudi Arabia, within the Middle East. I think it becomes bigger than sport, bigger than us. Ultimately, we as fans don't have no power. The whole power and who becomes a man and owner, the trust, the fit and purpose directors test or whatever. I don't know exactly what it's called, but you know what I mean, from the Premier League. That's just an absolute mess. Look at Abu Dhabi. That's not Abramovich. You know, I think it's a bit late in the day now to draw conscience and say, oh, what they're doing there, I don't know, it's right. Do you know what I mean? We look around the world, there's clubs and owners and stuff that football's lost its soul a long time ago. You talk about fans say, football, is loyal. There's no loyalty in football. You talk about the European Super League. These clubs wanted to leave you. They didn't care about your Burnleys and your West Hams. They were going to go. The whole thing about us fans, and I say us fans, I mean the grassroots fans. Who were fans before the Premier League came about. Those are the fans I'm on about. I think that we've got some sort of right and ownership. They don't care about us as billionaires, as people involved in football that now don't care about football, don't have an understanding of football. Me and you probably have more. I'm fairly confident. Me and you have got more of an understanding of football, the actual game of football, than the majority of fans in the Premier League, the owners in Premier League. Unfortunately, that is not what it is. It's money. You've got now the richest people in the world involved because it's for them. Some of them it's just a commodity. It's just a fashion statement, isn't it? Like Saudi Arabia think, we don't want Abu Dhabi, we don't want Russia looking the best, we don't want China looking that good. We better throw our weight around someone. I'll tell you what, what's the biggest league in the world? Premier League. Which club can we potentially tap into? Oh yeah, I'll tell you what, it'll be new. You know what? I think we've got no right to talk about it. Absolutely, what's going on in some of the stuff that goes in Saudi Arabia is horrendous. But there's a lot of stuff going around the other world that's horrendous as well. But we're not happy to step that up. What right do we have as fans to now suddenly go, oh right, Saudi Arabia, this is going on there, and now it's just because they bought Newcastle. So if for example, they didn't buy Newcastle and they went and bought, I don't know, a French team, are we going to step up or are we going to stay quiet? Is it just because the club they've bought into is in the Premier League? We are so disconnected and so far away from the Premier League. It's unbelievable. We are irrelevant to the club.
Yeah.
The clubs look at the pre-season tours away in China, away in Japan, away in Australia. It's all about money. It's got nothing to do with fans. Human rights issues, people's moral compass, people's actual own beliefs. And it's out the fucking window. No one cares. The fans, the clubs don't care. They can butter up however. We're Liverpool fans. We were one of the 12 putting our names down for European Super League. And then when we got caught, owners coming forward and we apologised. Bullshit. If you could have passed that, you'd have absolutely gone through that and you'd have been fine with it. So don't come running back to me with, the moral high ground and saying this, that. I'm not buying absolutely any of it. Just because it's Saudi Arabia and sports washing bullshit, absolutely not having it. And I think the whole media need to have a look at them as well, thinking that's something they can attack them. Newcastle fans, if they signed Liverpool, I'd have been absolutely dancing on the street thinking, brilliant, they'll say we're going to be the best team in the world for the next 10 years. You know what I mean? I just think it's a massive issue. And there were some of the people that are jumping on the bandwagon and really, really, they need to have a look at themselves. Sorry, I went on a bit there. I've seen it a lot. I've seen a lot on Twitter, and people think they've got some sort of right to say how a country should be run. Look how your own country's been run. Look how our country's run. What we've done with the pandemic and the government we've got. I think there's so much stuff going on in the world. That the world is there's some bad countries in the world. There's some bad stuff going on, but we really need to get your own house in order as well, and to pick a group that. They're saying they don't. I mean, again, we don't know how much involvement Saudi Arabia got. I'd imagine it'll be quite a bit, but we don't know. And I think it's a bit, far-fetched and hypocritical of fans, medias, and clubs to sort of pick and choose and say we'll target them. I don't know if you saw this stuff about 18 clubs voted against Newcastle's new sponsorship law around the Premier League. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it's basically blocking them, getting a lucrative sponsorship deal in. And so I just think the whole thing is. Everyone's looking out for themselves. Can you imagine Burnley fans piping up if they were bought by Saudi before? You know what I mean? No. They'd have been wearing the robes and everything themselves, wouldn't they? Sorry, mate. Yeah, I did go on a bit there, but over to you.
No, I think it's, you absolutely nailed it to the point where I've got nowhere to go. They like you said, Newcastle fans have no choice. Even if they didn't want this owner to come in, it's very rare that fans of a single club can promote change. Like we brought in Hicks and Gillette. It was very quick that went through. Whether we had a choice or not, it would have went through without us. The fact is, we managed to get them out. So, like you say, no one's going to turn their nose up at it. You've just got to, keep an open mind. You've got to not be naive. If you see something, call it out. But in reality, there's nothing that Newcastle fans can do, and any club fan would be the same. And again, I would be dancing in the streets with you.
I think the big one is obviously the journalist Jamal. I can't remember his surname, but he got murdered obviously by the Saudis in Turkey, which was that's the bit that they're taking up. But it's like, I mean, it's a consortium group that I've led it. They're backed by Saudi, but. Is it directly the government? I mean, I don't know. It might well be. I've not read into it too much. I know PIF are in charge, and there's a bit of 10% from Manchester, 10% from someone else.
Yeah,
they're
a sports investment fund, so you don't know how far detached it is from.
Yeah, exactly. So people doing it, I mean, are people doing it because it suits their narrative and they don't want a big club? There are a lot of unknowns in there, and people might think they know everything, but they don't. So yes, I mean, the stuff that happened with that Jamal I mean, I watched the documentary and I was just like, that is the fact the rest of the world didn't pipe up. I mean, we can take football out of it. The reason why no one attacks Saudi Arabia and stuff is because they're that rich. They're one of the richest countries in the world. You know what I mean? So no one ever sort of goes and, bombs them or attacks them. Iran, Iraq, they're the cheaper neighbours. It's easy to do them because what they're going to do, we can attack them. They're not going to attack. So I just think the whole thing's a bit, it's trying to be more holy than thou. And I just think it's fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
It's not bullshit, but you know what I mean? I just think it's very, it's easy to jump on the bandwagon when it suits your narrative. And unfortunately for a lot of people, it does. And I'm just not, I think Newcastle fans, brilliant. I think every fan in the country would be like, there's obviously going to be a select few to question that, and quite rightly so, because thankfully there are still people in the world that have got a moral compass that they do want to check and challenge, and they understand where they sit in the world and the views and the thoughts, because she believes just what we are personally. It's our own character, and that matters. We're not going to change the world. We're not going to be able to influence huge change. We're not going to be able to change governments, but we can certainly change our own beliefs and change what we can. So I think that's just a separate topic and a separate subject. So I don't like the fact it's getting mixed up and the whole sports washing thing being thrown in as well as some sort of we'll use that and that'll get us a few more. It's just not for me. Not for me. That's mine anyway.
You're going to be hard pressed to find owners of an elite club that don't have something in the background. No one's squeaky clean at that level. But you are right. But we'll see how you're talking in 5 years when they're winning the league year after year.
I know. Do you know something? The one thing I do. I'm glad we've got another big hitter in the club in the league. Obviously, it affects Liverpool as Liverpool fans, but I'm really proud of the way we've done it and how much we've spent. I know people bang on about net spend, but we've got the best team in the league. Now, Newcastle can go spend whatever they want in the next. They could have a best group of individuals. Will they have the best team? I don't know. You know what I mean? There are still some players there are lots of players in the world that still want to play for the top clubs, not just for the money. They obviously want to get paid, and quite rightly so. Mohamed Salah played. I mean, he's not going to leave Liverpool to Newcastle. Obviously, if they pay him 10 million a week, probably yes. But the sort of similar wages is not going to go. I think there are still players that want to stay. So your Van Dijks, you can go through Liverpool's team. They're not going to go. Or the Man City players aren't going to leave Man City to go there. So I think I'm glad. I'm proud the way we're doing it. And wherever we finish, great. We don't spend a lot of money. We obviously work within our means, and I think you did do financial fair play in speech bubbles earlier, but I think that is just an absolute catastrophe. I think that just needs looking at. That you're talking about owners, I think that is financial fair play needs looking at more than anything in the world, because the way people are playing through the loopholes and buying through the loopholes, and buying players just by giving themselves a bigger sponsorship deal. I mean, the way Man City gave them a sponsorship deal through Emirates Airways, and now clubs is trying to block Newcastle getting a lucrative. I just think it's hypocrisy of the highest. I don't know how they're going to do it.
I don't know how they're going to do it, but I do think something like this is something that's going to put a series of events in motion. I can honestly see some form of a salary cap. I agree.
Yeah, there's got to be. I mean, we talk about you can only spend what you earn. I think it needs to be transparent, and everyone needs to see it. Not just hidden away sponsorship. Yeah, exactly. It needs to be, and bigger clubs will earn more. That's fine. We don't want to be like MLS where everyone's got the same salary cap and the best players go to the worst teams. Now we don't want that. If you're the best team and you're earning enough money through whatever format that might be, like your revenue, your ticket sales, people buying your streams or your ticket sales away in China or your merchandise, whatever it is, I don't care. If you're earning the most and you've got 100 million at the end of the season, you spend 100 million, that's absolutely fine. If you've got 20 million, and unfortunately you're in the 20 million market, but what we don't want is those 100 million pound clubs spending 500, 600 million. By giving themselves a sponsorship deal. Now it needs to be transparent. That's the bigger issue then Saudi Arabia taking over Newcastle, or Abu Dhabi taking over there, or someone taking over PSG. UEFA throwing fines. It's just like, did UEFA try something with Man City, and Man City took a court and they lost? It's just like, the whole thing is just stupid. And then it came down to who's got most money to get better lawyers. Well, that's going to be Man City, isn't it? You know, so I just think like the ownership thing isn't the issue. The issue is the financial fair play. It needs to be clear. It needs to be transparent. It needs every fan, the grassroots fan, the fan on the street needs to understand exactly how much is being spent, and it's transparent. That's the way you fix it. Not by trying to stop owners coming in and buying clubs.
Exactly, like a shirt sponsor, for example. It shouldn't be, let's say, 20 million for Newcastle and then 100 million for, you know, you've got to be able to see where the difference is. I totally agree. Obviously, we've got to come to an end, and with every podcast, we have a question of the day. And what is your question of the day today?
Thanks, mate. Yeah, so the question of the day today is, we've obviously had, I mean, we could have had about 4 or 5 because there's that many different question marks around this ownership deal. So question of the day for you guys is, would you care if a Saudi Arabian backed consortium took over your club with all the issues that surrounded them? As always, yes or no. If you want to give us a bit more of a detail, just let us know. We do respond to all our comments. We did get one from, I think it might well have been Saudi Arabia. It was about the Mo Salah one, and I couldn't work out what he said, so I couldn't reply. But anything in English, we will reply and we'll look to it. And as always, we say, if you get this far in the podcast, we talk a bit of sense. Please do like and share and subscribe, and share it with your mates and family. And you never know, we might become famous one day, and we'll thank you when we do.
Yeah, make sure you subscribe, guys. We're up to around about 120 back. I think we've been stuck there for a while. I don't know whether it's the YouTube counter that's just stuck or whatever. Yeah. And we've really got a couple of thousand, and it's going to catch up. But yeah, just make sure you hit that subscribe button. That'd be great.
All right, guys. Brilliant. See you in the next one.
Bye. See you later.